Hey y'all, this is Ryan.
And I'm Robin.
And we don't agree on much, but one thing we do agree on is Facebook has been a royal pain this week.
Let's face it, we all hate Facebook. So yeah, what's been going on with Facebook?
So our last episode, which by the way has done very well, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that. Thank you very much.
And we had a ton of fun doing that one.
Yes, we did. So trying to get it published, or oh no, that's not the problem was. Excuse me. I tried to actually pay for an ad for that specific episode. Once you start paying for ads on Facebook, they ping the hell out of you. And I said, and at Robin's suggestions, he said, why don't we go ahead and boost this one because it's doing so well already. We'll go ahead and get it out there further.
And I'm science-minded, and I wanted to do an A/B test, and I wanted to see how it would work because I pay attention to those things. So yeah.
So
continue.
Yeah, I go ahead and I pay for the ad, and I don't know, not even 20 minutes later, it was rejected. So I don't remember what the exact headline title we had for it at the time was, but it involved politics, and then I got a notice.
It involved politics and hunting.
Yeah, I got a notice back from Facebook that from now till the election, even though I was paying for an advertisement,
and they beg you to pay for it.
Yes, they do. They ask you, I mean, they're always boost this with more money and boost this and boost that and boost that. Even though I'm paying for it, and it specifically it's known as it's a sponsored advertisement, they rejected it. So we had to change the headline of the thing, left the content alone. Nothing got changed. Nothing was edited whatsoever. Just the headlines. And it went through. Third time was a charm on that one.
Did we even change the blurb with it or just the headline?
Just the headline as far as I know.
So tonight, when this is called Cupcake Sprinkles and Unicorns, you guys know why.
You'll know why. Because we're going to, we're going to see, and I think it's just because it's election season. They're getting close to, we're past September 1st here. We're getting into we're rounding the fourth turn, getting towards November. And I guess you can't even buy political advertisements on Facebook unless, I don't know if the two candidates can. I don't know.
I do know. That's actually one of Donald Trump's biggest sources of ads. I do know that they found several hundred more accounts that were fake, that were pushing, that were, hello, Russia. The same...
Shout out to Russia.
Yeah, the same... I forget what was the name of the company that was responsible for so much disinformation in 2016. It was a Russian company. They're back at it. They've been opening accounts.
Bots everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
See, that is the Russian interference with the 2016 election.
That is definitely part of it. And so they shut that down, so I'm wondering if they've been cracking down on stuff just because I don't know if they cracked down on everything in the process of trying to find the bots. I don't know. But it was pretty interesting that just those 2 or 3 words were enough to get it flagged.
I mean, they've had 4 years to work on this. I mean, they know what's what. So, there was definitely influence in the 2016 election from that part of the world, one way and the other. That's why I caution people, careful what you repost, careful what you put out there, because a lot of that is, it's fake, it's misinformation or whatever else.
Actually, a good example of that is there's a bunch of stuff going around on Facebook today that California just passed a pro-pedophile law.
I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh, I saw it all over Facebook last couple of days. In anticipation of, and then the law. But if you spend 5 minutes, shout out to my friend Sean for pointing out that you could spend literally 1 minute online and see that that's not what they passed, what it is. And I am not a legal expert. I am not an attorney, so forgive me if I use the wrong verbiage. But I think it's between the ages of 14 and 17. If you have... It has always been, and I think it's this way in many states, that if you have sex with consensual, uncoerced sex with someone within your age bracket or within a few years, and I don't remember the exact number of years, if you have, and I'm sorry, I hope nobody's listening to this with their kids. If you are,
Right.
turn it off.
Right.
But it has
Parents
always
need
been.
to know this because I know, I know what you're getting at now.
If they had consensual, unforced sex with someone within a few years of their age, I think it was 14 to 17 years
Right.
old, if it was vaginal, or I think if it was vaginal sex, then a judge could decide that it was not a felony. A judge had
So
some...
basically 2 teenagers.
Yes. So a judge could decide that it was not a felony, that
Right.
it was not, that they did not need to be labeled a sex predator. If it was oral or anal sex, this is where I'm cringing if someone is listening to this with their kids. But if it was oral or anal sex with a 14 to 17-year-old, same demographic, then it was an automatic felony and sex predator conviction, and the judge had no say. The law that was just... I think it was passed in California. That law actually now says that a judge can have say over that.
Okay.
And so it's not that they're promoting pedophilia.
Right.
What they are doing is saying that if 2 teenagers who are gay or homosexual,
Sure.
the judge has some leeway. So there's so much disinformation out there. People would have you
Right.
believe
So
that.
that got warped into pedophiles can now have sex with 14-year-olds.
Right.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Texas has, and I'll have to consult the legal wing of Exit the Echo Chamber. I have to call my buddy Lee about this. The Romeo and Juliet law. So you'll have a girl that's of a certain age and a boy that both teenagers, both under
Right.
18 or whatever. And because I personally have seen this with some of the convicts I've dealt with, he turns 18, she's still 16, mama
Her
gets
parents
pissed
get
off.
mad.
Right.
Yeah,
Mama gets
exactly.
pissed off. All of a sudden, he's a sex offender. And that's, you talk about a stain that's just nearly impossible to get off.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I don't know to what degree Texas goes into to specifics on which kinds of, like as you the versions of sex you can and cannot have.
And this was basically just decriminalizing kids
Right.
who happen to be gay,
Right.
who might have been, so an 18-year-old girlfriend with her 16-year-old girlfriend in California before this passed might be labeled a sex predator.
Sure.
So it again, regardless
lets
of what
a
you think or what you
judge-
believe, yes,
Yeah.
it lets a judge decide. And so if you believe Facebook, you would believe something totally different than
Right.
what you could spend literally 60 seconds
Right.
finding the facts of. So
That's dangerous.
yeah,
because
so
if you-
I don't agree with Facebook. I thought it was pretty stupid with our title, but I can see where they're trying to. They have been so irresponsible in the past. I can see where they're trying to be more responsible. And it feels like censorship, but we all signed those terms and conditions
Right,
when we signed
and-
up, and we never read them because
No,
you
nobody
show
ever
me
reads
somebody.
it.
Yeah,
No.
you show me somebody who says they've read those, and I will show you a liar.
Since we've started doing this, the terms and conditions that I've had to go through and stuff that I've had to do, like getting, working on getting other platforms and
Right.
all of that business, it's staggering. Speaking of, this just came out on, and I guess it's Breitbart, admittedly right wing, but
Oh God.
it says Facebook declares this is Kyle Rittenhouse. This is the shooter in Kenosha. That post in support of him won't be allowed because they're calling him a mass murderer. I mean, I'm not reading into the article any more than this. I'm just reading the headline. But
Technically, he's not a mass murderer. He only
Right.
murdered 2 people.
right. And it's not. He's been accused of murder. He hasn't. He's been charged with it. He has not been convicted of it. And
His guns caused the death of 2 people.
no. His trigger finger caused the death of 2 people.
I can see that's a slippery slope, and you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, because
Whole
they're
Kenosha thing, but the posts that I saw were disgusting.
well. If
They
the
have
bigger
the dead
issue
bodies
is you could have a shooting, and I will say that shooting, it does definitely raise some eyebrows, no question. That's not what I'm getting at here. But remove that, and let's say it was a totally justified thing somewhere else, and several people died in it or whatever else, and it was a home invasion that got stopped. Good guy with a gun situation. Are we not allowed to support those guys then, and who gets to decide that?
So what I saw on the pro Rittenhouse posts, and granted, I didn't see everything because I didn't want to, but I saw a lot of posts with those dead bodies in the memes. And quite honestly,
there's a ton of that.
I wish we could go back to not seeing videos of death and dying, because to me at some point it becomes almost like death porn.
Right.
Like we're all just getting off
it's
on the
getting
videos
more
of
and
people.
more where you're seeing more and more gore on, like you said, death porn, where it's getting to be on TV or YouTube or
and
internet.
I know that people are suffering, and I know that horrible things are happening. I don't need to see someone's last breath, and I feel almost like it's disrespectful because I know that things that happen are horrible. I don't have to see their last breath.
I mean, there's not an easy answer to that particular situation. My overall reaching point, I'm not here to defend or to bash Rittenhouse. That's not my point. My point is Facebook has decided that if you have a certain point of view, you can't post it. That's what it amounts to here. So my point is, if you had a different point of view about a different situation, what are they going to do about that too? Totally different, unrelated situation somewhere else at a different time in a different universe. Doesn't even have to be a shooting. Could just be a political point of view. You don't get to have that.
I'll be curious because I know they still have a lot of divergent viewpoints. So I'll be curious. I think the Rittenhouse thing might be a little unique.
I mean, we had to do a workaround about a podcast about people coming together and talking about stuff. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Just to get.
I do.
So if you have a point of view that Zuckerberg doesn't agree with, all of a sudden it gets taken down. So, and I've never been to Facebook jail. I've been to Facebook warning. I've got one of my friends. I've got a friend. I probably shouldn't put his name out there.
Don't put his name out there.
He is notorious for Facebook jail. So you know what post you got to be friends with both of them. So you know that when the one is being posted, the other is in jail. It's hilarious.
I have one of those friends too, and at first I thought that his account had been hacked because I got a second friend request that was obviously
I'll just say Jason.
from him.
Oh, that's all I'll go.
Yeah,
I'll just use his first name only.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those friends. So I don't know. We all agree again to those terms and conditions. So then
such a pain.
It's kind of hard to bitch about it if we agree to it. So maybe someday in the future, at least one of us should maybe read those terms and conditions.
Maybe. There's an episode of South Park about that.
I'm not going to hold my breath.
Horrible. I mean, it's good, but it's also at the same time horrible. Speaking of horrible.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you and I did a deep dive into something today.
Yeah, because I was talking about how we get so into our own world of Biden and Trump and COVID and everything that's affecting us that we forget there's a world outside of us. So I said we should look outside of the United States and see what's going on everywhere else. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot. So we did, you and I both talked, and I'd spent some time today watching, actually it was pbs.org, has a great video on this, and you can go on YouTube, and John Oliver on HBO.
Love John Oliver.
John Oliver, he's hilarious. I don't always agree with him.
He might be slightly above Leslie Jordan in my book.
I don't know. If I had to choose between the two, I don't know. For Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh, yeah, I'd still choose Leslie Jordan.
Okay. So, John, and what we're discussing right now are the concentration camps in China that are going on with the Uyghurs. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's phonetically spelled. It would be W-E-E, and then I spelled it G-U-R-H. That's not how it's spelled at all. That's how it's pronounced. The Uyghurs. And it is a Muslim minority in northwestern China.
There's 11 million Uyghurs in that area, and approximately, as of 2018, and now they're saying there are more, 1 million Uyghurs are in what most of us would call concentration camps, but China calls re-education or employment training camps. If you look at them, I don't know, they sure look like concentration camps to me.
Yeah, they showed the video, and as I've said just about it, I've been around a prison or two, and they look like
prison.
That's a prison.
Yeah.
You know, when you got tall 20-foot walls with razor wire on top of them, bars inside of them, stainless steel, everything inside of cells, and let's be honest, those are cells. That's a prison. It looks a little bit like a prison, looks a whole lot. And according to what this John Oliver thing was saying and the PBS.org, this is the largest imprisonment of human in any
religious or ethnic group.
Yeah, largest human imprisonment based on religion since the Holocaust. So we need to seriously think about that. That is an ethnic minority. They were taken over. That used to be it was a different country prior to 1949. China took them over when they started rising to power. So basically, you're post World War II, when nobody was paying attention, China took over and they basically started running them. Now those folks are being bussed out of there and taken to places out throughout the rest of China to work in factories for a whole lot of multinational corporations. The two that they mentioned were Nike and Volkswagen. I'm sure there's a lot more.
They also mentioned that many of us that wear the disposable masks are actually getting our masks that are made by the Uyghurs. And I don't know name brands, but they did show, and they're the masks that probably 1 out of 3 of us wear because they're cheap and easy. So they're being made basically by slave labor. China's in a lot of hot water right now, and again, we're so into what's going on just in our own little world. But China has managed. First of all, there's that we need to pay attention to. We've got sanctions against them. We've got stern wording. But really nothing beyond the stern wording. They're in trouble with Europe. They apparently threatened a Czech diplomat.
Yeah.
Right? And Angela Merkel had some pretty
Angela
harsh...
wasn't having it.
No.
The Germans took up for the Czechs.
No.
That's a reversal of fortune since the 40s.
I do think that she slapped China's hand a little.
Yep.
China's also still in trouble here. What with that professor that you were talking about the other day, who might possibly be a spy.
Oh, yeah.
Professor at A&M, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay, let's back up. Let me rewind one quick second. There was a professor at A&M who is in trouble, who was, I believe, detained by the FBI. I'm the one that put spy on there. I don't want to give people the wrong impression and go Googling stuff and saying that there was a spy at A&M. Based on some folks that I have talked to that have worked for one of the 2 or the 3 of all of the alphabet soups agencies, given the proximity that that person was to NASA in Houston and some of the access that they had and all of that, they believe that that person may, capitalized, underlined, be and have been a spy. I want to say that very clearly that is an opinion of mine. Okay?
Thank you for that legal clarification.
But
China is on the naughty list.
Based on some experience. Okay?
China is on the naughty list. Russia is also on the naughty list.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, because this is barely a blip in our news,
Right.
But Alexei, is it Navalny? He has been a thorn in Putin's side since 2011.
Oh, yeah.
And
I didn't know you were talking about it first.
yeah, he has been a thorn in Putin's side since 2011, and had a cup of tea before his flight the other day, and apparently that tea had some Novichok nerve agent in it, which is very specifically Russian. And he is now in a coma in Berlin. So there's been a lot of upheaval over that everywhere except the U.S., where we probably don't even know about it if we're not looking for international news.
So what you're saying is that the former head of the KGB that has now been the leader of Russia now for what? What are we into now? How many?
Jeez, I don't even know.
Since
honestly.
the early 2000s.
Yeah, I don't even know.
A long...
Too long. Yeah.
Had an opponent... Did I say he's the former head of the KGB? Did I mention that?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, former head of the KGB, now the leader of Russia's opponent, drinks some bad tea and is in a coma. Surprise, surprise.
This should be concerning, though. And Putin's also got his hand in Belarus.
Yeah.
Putin has pledged military support, and he has propped up the state TV for Belarus because, what's his name? Lukashenko. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Won his 28th year or something,
Right.
and people have finally stood up and said enough. So Putin is muscling in on that. So yeah, there's a lot going on, not
There's
just here.
issues with Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. This was earlier in the week, and I'll stand corrected if anybody wants to do the math on it. Turkey and the EU were at each other about something, and I don't remember what it was, but it was not too. And we have bases in Turkey, and we have bases. We're supposed to be on. Good
I thought we were
terms.
pulling military out of that area.
Don't know that
and
we've done it
repositioning.
100%.
I know that we actually have more military abroad than we did a year ago, but I thought that Trump had been repositioning them and taking them out of the Turkey
Possible.
area.
It's possible. I'd have to ask somebody.
Long story short, we did a deep dive and realized that there is a whole world outside of our borders, and there's
Right.
a lot going on. A lot of unrest, a lot of protesters throughout Europe, both with the Belarus thing and protesting us.
Chinese thing is not cool with me, not at all. It's part of the reason I do not wear. I mean, Nike, for instance, has been accused for years and years and years of using, near slave labor or very close to it, and for their $300 shoes. And by the way, if I ever see anybody wearing that Nike Zoom Fly 4% running shoe,
Oh
whatever,
my God, trip them.
I'm tripping you. It's
We can
going
agree
to
on
happen.
that.
Yes,
We can agree
that's
on that.
happening. Okay. If I catch you. Now, if you outrun me, whatever. If you're a Kenyan and I can't catch you. But if I'm ever in the same marathon as somebody wearing one of those things, you're eating asphalt. So anyway, yeah, I am not a Nike fan at all.
If you just wear Birkenstocks, no slave labor
But
involved.
Yeah, right. The problem.
Seriously.
But you have companies like Disney that are bending over backwards right now. They're about to release Mulan, specifically aimed at the Chinese market. I read about that today. That was a headline on Drudge, actually. They're pumped a bunch of money. The animated Mulan that came out in the 90s or whenever that was, early 2000s, bombed over there. So they spent a bunch of money, like $200 million just in production for this movie alone, just aimed at China alone.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
So you've got companies like that. And again, like I said, I'll bash Nike all day. I have nothing for Nike ever. So
This is China's one of those things where you can vote with your dollars, and we don't have to be xenophobic about it. But
and there's supposed to be a Chinese automobile hitting the U.S. market relatively. I forgot the name of it. The guy that I watch, it's a YouTube channel that I watch about cars and about the right one to buy and what not to buy and all that kind of business. He said that they're going to be trying to compete with the Japanese market, and I think in theory they're actually even bigger than Toyota in some ways.
That is going to be a hard market to crack.
Yeah,
they're going to have to give those away for a few years.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I'm not going to be real happy if I see you driving a Chinese car, as based on their current behavior. So that's just again my opinion. I don't have much else on that but opinion.
As we were looking, of course, I went back to our news. I am not going to talk about Trump or Biden today.
Good.
But
I'm down with that.
right? My gosh, I'm fatigued. But I did see, and I think you saw, that CDC is floating plans, options to halt evictions through the end of the year. That sounds good.
I don't know where I'm just being devil's advocate here. I don't know where they get that authority.
I don't either. And there was a second, it wasn't just the CDC, but that gave me pause. There was a second government agency, and I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to say it wrong. But there were two agencies involved in trying to get that passed. And it does sound good and warm and fuzzy, and it makes sense in some ways because $1,200 several months ago is not enough to sustain the millions and millions of people who are out of work.
Right.
But at the same time, I look at that and I think, what percentage of landlords are military families who have moved out of their house and are renting it out for a couple of years, or I've rented this house out and moved back into it. So it's not like big bad landlords who have millions of dollars in real estate and are sitting on piles of cash. Like, if they do that, then they have to take a two-pronged approach. They also have to do something to help the people who hold the mortgages.
Yeah, there's lots of people that just, they held on to the house when they moved, or they wound up just through.
They know they're going to be back in it in a couple of years.
They bought a property somewhere when their kids are going to college, or whatever the situation. They just held on to it, or whatever the thing. Or they might have bought an investment property. They could have done that.
Or they might have a job in a different state for a year. Right. Like, there's so many different scenarios. And so to make them shoulder the debt of people who can't afford their rent.
And I have family that is in the business
Yeah.
of renting, properties out, and it's usually single family type, dwellings. It's houses and maybe a duplex here and there, but not apartments. As I understand it, though, it applies to anybody making less than $99,000 a year. I don't know where they came up with that number.
And that is the vast majority of the rental market. But what are they doing for the people who own the houses?
Right.
Because if they're not doing something for them, then they are just
Right.
passing on the devastation to a different group.
Because the utilities, at the end of the day, the utilities still have to get paid for the electricity to flow, the water, the HOA stuff, all that other stuff. Everything has to get paid some kind of way. So how are they figuring all of that out?
Yeah, I think it's a feel-good stopgap Band-Aid on a head wound. Like, I
Right.
don't think that it's a...
It's also fairly political. It sounds good where you can't you can't evict people. And I understand, if you got a single mom with 2 kids and she's been out of work since March and that $1,200 is gone, I get that. But what's the overall solution to fixing this? Helping the people that, like you said, they may own a house in a different state because they're in the military or because they're they may just bought an investment property and went with that. So who knows? I don't have all the answers on that one, but I would like to see some thoughts on that besides just saying you can't kick them out. But I did see something, and I know you were not. You told me you were not paying attention to this particular race. It's not Trump or Biden. It was the Massachusetts primary that just ended yesterday. I didn't know
Which
they went
is
this late.
incredibly late.
Very late in the political year. The only time, there's only been a handful of times in political history, I guess it would be important to be one of the last ones, but it was there. And a young Kennedy, Joe Kennedy III, lost to the incumbent despite having been endorsed by Nancy Pelosi. This is the part that I found funny. I watched the video of him giving you could tell he was upset and not, happy about it and all that. I get it. But he said his name, I'm a Kennedy, and to my family, and he goes, whose name was invoked more often than I thought it would be, meaning the last name Kennedy was invoked that many times. And I almost started laughing because I was like, dude, you're on that stage right now. You were able to get into that arena to even run against an incumbent senator with Nancy Pelosi's backing because of your last name. You didn't, if that were me trying to do that, I wouldn't have gotten out of the gates. But you were able to raise millions of dollars and get endorsements and all that because of the last name. Don't act like it was some shock that it got brought up in the media. So
I think we should get rid of the whole family dynamic, dynasty, Bush, Kennedy,
I'd be
Trump.
perfectly happy with no more Bushes. I've long said no more Bushes, no more Clintons. Anybody knows me personally.
No more Trumps.
Well,
no more
hold
Kennedys.
on. We only had the one
And
Trump.
that's enough. That's quite enough.
You said we weren't going to bring
All
that
right,
up.
Tiffany Trump is fine. She needs a few more years.
She's a few more
young.
years. She's not old enough yet. But
Yeah, she's
no,
young.
I mean, this is, we very nearly had Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Clinton, president. That, with the exception of Obama.
Jeb Bush was in there too.
And then Jeb Bush was in there. And see, that was in 2016. And I got to say, I was very proud of the rank and file members of the voters of the Republican Party. I don't mean their leadership. I mean the voters. Because Bush was pre-anointed. Jeb. I'm talking about Jeb here.
Yeah.
He was pre-anointed. It was a done deal. He had a war chest and all that kind of stuff. He got 3 electoral votes. I mean, he barely carried his home state.
Right.
So he got nothing. And he spent a ton of money too. And they said, no, we're done with y'all. And I think that's justified. We're no more F-bombing Bushes. The same could also be said that the Democrats did the same thing that year, at least at the grassroots level, supporting Bernie over Hillary. Because if you looked at her events and you looked at his events, he was the rock star and she couldn't catch a cold.
Yeah, he excited a
Right.
whole different base.
In
that
16,
had
we're talking
never
about
been
16
excited.
here. Yeah. He was on fire and she just wasn't, but that convention was rigged. So that
Oh my God! You always throw those zingers in there. And
that
I'm
deal
like,
was
really?
done in
We're
08.
almost out of time, and you throw a zinger in there, and I'm like, do I let that fly? Am I complicit? And like, if I don't
Do
say
a deep
something,
dive. I'll tell you what. I'll give you. I won't mention it for a few episodes. I'll let you look up Donna Brazile and what she said about her.
I
and all
know
that.
Donna Brazile, and I
So,
know all of that, but
all
you
of her
can't throw
quotes.
those zingers in at the end.
It was a rigged convention.
You can't throw those zingers in at the end.
So anyway, no more Bushes, no more Clintons, and who are we talking about? I'd be perfectly happy with no more Kennedys. So
And no more Trumps. All right.
we've only had the one.
I know. It's good.
Okay, he gets 4 more years after this, and then we'll see. Okay,
Again with your zingers.
you like that?
No, that one actually fell pretty flat.
No, it didn't.
It was flat. It was not like his heels, which were quite raised. Did you see his shoes?
I did not.
That man had kitten shoes on at Kenosha yesterday when he was walking around.
Kitten shoes. Do tell.
Little 2-inch heels. They're called kitten.
Never seen that before. He's already
Oh,
over
you've
6
seen
feet
him.
tall. He doesn't need to wear lifts.
You've seen him. Well, he was wearing them. I'm not sure what was going on with that, but literal kitten heels. Look
No,
them up.
I have to. I'll take your word for it on that one.
I saw him and I was like, oh, that's very coquettish.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, that's all I got on him.
That's all I really care to throw down anyway. My point was that Kennedy even got in the arena in the first place because of his last name, and then he was crying about his name. The name got dragged through the mud, and I was like, yeah. So that's all I got. Oh! You've got an event coming up this weekend. We promised we were going to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, almost let that one go.
Yeah.
You've got a thing coming up. You want to talk about that?
I could talk about that a little. It's called Fighting Pistol. It's James Yeager.
From Tactical Response. Shout
Which
out.
I am sure some of y'all know. And if you don't, you can go look him up. He's cool. It's going to teach me to be better with a gun and better in real life situations. And I'm pretty excited, a little nervous, but pretty excited. And actually today I was driving out to Kansas and saw a road rage incident and happened to look at the guy to take down his license plate. And I guess that I looked a little too obviously. I learned my lesson. And he proceeded to turn his road rage on me and followed me all the way out. Yeah, I made several mistakes in that. But it made me aware that my box cutter in my car is probably not enough when I am out in the boonies with no one else around and someone who is dangerous. So, I've had a couple of events in the last few months that have made me realize that I would like to be better prepared in the event of an emergency. And today ended okay, but it was actually a little traumatic, and I'm still processing that. But yeah, I'm excited about this weekend, and we will take videos and pictures and do all sorts of things.
So you've been getting warmed up on it. We've been going to the range. You've been getting some stuff down.
And I apparently have to do my homework because I am left-handed in most things, but I am right-handed with
Shooting.
golf, tennis, shooting, basketballs, shooting. But apparently I am left-eye dominant. I know so little that I didn't know that was a thing. And apparently that's a weird thing.
No, it's not weird. It happens.
But
I sent you a YouTube video today on
I
it.
know,
So.
I just didn't have time to watch it.
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to learn a lot.
So James Yeager's Tactical Response Fighting Pistol class, massive shout out again. And by the way, 2 days later, I'll be taking Fighting Rifle. I'll be going through that with an AR-15. That's a different training, but it's with an AR, obviously. In Fighting Pistol, they cover road rage and do's and don'ts and civil situations, and it's kind of a shoot don't shoot type thing. Making smart decisions about being in that situation, and what do you do, and is your phone handy? Is your weapon your best option? Is it your only option? Things like that. So,
Right.
There's quite a bit of class time that goes through it, that you go through, and then the shooting. And the shooting is, it's a pretty major part of it. And you're going to shoot it. You're going to put out there anywhere from you'll burn roughly 1,000 rounds. But there's also some class time. It's not just stand square to the target, pull the trigger, and all that crap like they teach in other places. It's real world stuff. So, by
Apparently,
the end,
I need knee pads, and I'm gonna get
yeah,
bruised.
you're gonna need some you're gonna need some knee pads. You're gonna need a serious belt. You might want to. You're gonna need your eye protection. You're gonna need a hat. You know, depending on the weather, we got to get there's some gear, and I have most of it, so it's no big deal. And you have everything that I can think of except the knee pads, so you'll need those.
I feel like there's a joke in there, but I'm too tired.
I'm not going to make that joke. It's but you'll be rolling around in the dirt a little bit.
I know.
That's
I'm
how fights
excited.
happen. That's where fights wind up. It is think of it as a martial arts class with a gun. That's what it amounts to. So there is some instruction. So super excited about that. And as Robin said, we'll have pictures and videos and hopefully, if everything goes right, some guests and whatever else coming up. So as usual, Robin is correct.
And Ryan is right.
See y'all later, y'all.